Hi everyone. Hope everyone's having a great day so far. It is Saturday afternoon over here, and I've already had a pretty full day. I woke up early, I had my little weekend morning routine. I met my friend at a museum. We caught up at a coffee shop, and then I walked her to the train and came back here. So, what I would like to do today is do a little show and tell of my paper system right now. Basically, everything that I use to document essentially life. And then I'm going to show you the record that I'm going to put on as a soundtrack for continuing to go about my day. So let's start with all of these. This is my literal stack, and I will just start from the top. So this first one is a 1 line a day journal. This is a 5-year journal. So what it looks like, this is the format. Each page is assigned to a day, November 29th, for example. And each page is split up into 5 sections. And what you do is, because there's no years filled in, you can start this journal whenever you want. And basically, you fill in a year's worth of 1 line a day. It could be anything you want. I tend to write either something that happened that day or like list the things I did, or one thing that was particularly noteworthy about that day. And then the cool thing is, when you get through a year and then come back around to the next row, when you flip the page each day to write what happened that day, you can see what happened on that exact day the year before. So I really like this little end of day or beginning of day ritual. This is my second book that I've been working through. I'm on, so basically my 6th year of doing this. Whether I'll make it to a third book, I don't know, but it's a part of my writing practice that I really enjoy right now. Okay, here is the next one. This is actually something I haven't started doing yet, but I'm really excited to start, and I'm going to start it today. So basically, someone I know has a book that is a vinyl record cataloging book. And each page has different parts, like different sections that you fill out about the record. So maybe it's like, I'm assuming artist, title of the record, the year it was released or pressed, and maybe some notes. And the little section for notes and additional information he uses to sit down with the record, listen to it, and write out a little something that he's feeling about that record, something anecdotal, a memory. And so when I read about his practice of doing that, I really, really liked it. And I wanted to try doing the same thing, not the cataloging, because I already have my catalog digitally, but the forcing function of listening to your entire collection and like writing a little thing intentionally down about each record and your experience with it. I just really, really like that idea. So I went to Barnes & Noble and picked up this little 3-pack of Moleskine Cahier journals, and I'm going to try it. So I'm going to start doing it today, actually. And the record that I'm going to do this with is this one, Metallica, Master of Puppets. This is my very favorite Metallica album. They're my favorite band in general, like of all time. So wait until the second half of the video if you want to hear about just my general thoughts about this record and a little bit of the history. I'll get to that. But for now, let's get on with the show and tell. So I'll set this aside for now. All right, the next book this is a planner, and the brand is called Kinbor. I had never heard of this brand until early this year. And the way that people in the planner community generally refer to Kinbor is that it's a knockoff Hobonichi. So the story here is that I really wanted a Hobonichi. I wanted to try the Hobonichi Techo cousin because from seeing the layouts, I thought it would really, really work for me. And what I needed in order to plan and document day by day throughout the year. But as it got closer to the end of the year, I started reading reviews and posts on Reddit about the whole paper quality drama of Hobonichi last year. If you're in planners, you probably know about it already. I particularly saw some pen test pages on pages of the Hobonichi, and the part that ended up spooking me was zebra mild liners. So these are a type of sort of pastel highlighter that I use a lot in my planning practice, and the mild liners heavily bled through to the other side of the page. And so that kind of made me decide not to go with the Hobonichi, but I instantly regretted it. So what I did in early 2025 is I decided to get this affordable version of a Hobonichi Techo to pilot using the system to see if it was for me. And then if I liked it, I would get a Hobonichi next year. It turns out that it's not for me. I love seeing the clippings like chronologically throughout the year, and I love the feeling of having this like full, like chunky book. But the thing is, it's too heavy and takes up too much space to carry it around with me, and that means I don't use it. So I'm actually really glad I learned this about myself before investing in the Hobonichi, which is quite expensive. So I'm still going to use the Kinbor until the end of the year, but now I know, not really for me. Okay, what really is for me though is this one. So this is the Kokuyo Jibun Techo. I have been using this planner system for 5 years, and it really does work for me. However, something I noticed only a few weeks ago is that the way that I use this planner is more as a life log. So I use this to log the types of coffee I have, one highlight of the day, kind of like a gratitude practice. I have a habit tracker in here, and then I chronologically log what I do throughout the day, what I eat, my sleep schedule. It's just a habit that I've been doing for forever, and the format of how the Kokuyo Jibun Techo is laid out is just, it's really great for that. However, it's not enough space for me to both plan and life log. So I have an idea for next year. I will continue using this for the life logging portion. And yeah, maybe I'll do a more in detail Kokuyo Jibun Techo talk through, show and tell video at some point in the future. Big fan. Okay, the last artifact here is this composition notebook. This is my journal, and I've been using composition notebooks for about 3 years for my journal. I've been journaling for forever, my whole life. I started using these back when I did the Artist's Way program 3 years ago, and I was doing morning pages. And I just kept using the format. I really love the aesthetic of the composition notebook, but I recently realized that the paper is a little bit, the book is a little big for me. So once I finish this one, which I have like, you know, about a fifth of it left, I have an idea for what to switch to. But in the meantime, it works great. And it's very, very, very affordable. Like I can find these at the dollar store. Okay, so going back to this topic and the record, let's talk about it. Let's move some things out of the way. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is my favorite Metallica album. It is their third album. It was recorded in 1985, so I was a baby, in Copenhagen in Denmark. And it came out the next year in 1986. I came online to Metallica much later than that. It was the 90s, and it was when their album Load came out. Now, I know that that's a very polarizing time and turning point for Metallica fans, but that's when I really got interested in them. I had seen the Until It Sleeps video on MTV. I really liked it, so I bought the CD. I had heard and seen the video for Enter Sandman earlier on as a kid, but I don't know. It's something didn't really do it for me, and Metallica wasn't really on my radar that much until the Load album. Now, I wasn't obsessed with Load. I liked it. I played it. But it wasn't until I saw Metallica live in 1997 that I just fell down the rabbit hole. I was completely blown away seeing their live show, and I was an instant fan for life. So, it was the 90s. There were no streaming services, and I was a teenager. I didn't have an income until a little bit later in high school when I got my first job. So I didn't have money to buy all of their CDs at once. I would get maybe one CD every few weeks, and I would dive deep into them. I would study the album art. I would read the liner notes, take the booklet out, memorize the track listing. This album rose to the top for me and ended up becoming my favorite. I learned so many of the guitar parts from this album. None of Kirk Hammett's solos, because those were too fast for my newbie guitar fingers, but I learned the rhythm guitar and slower, more manageable solos of tracks like Master of Puppets, Sanitarium, Orion. I loved this. I've heard that between their first two albums and this one, the band really wanted to get tighter on this album. And if you listen to the first and second albums, Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning, in this one you can really kind of hear that. I read that they were very perfectionistic during the recording process, and James Hetfield, the frontman, he apparently insisted on recording all of his guitar tracks live rather than doing overdubbing, which is where the audio is recorded in pieces and layered together. I read that actually is a pretty unusual practice, and that the producer, Flemming Rasmussen, said that this made the recording process take a very long time, but that in general, the finished result of this album was so masterful, and he has never heard anything like that before or since. In terms of the sound, it's just very epic of an album. Musically, for me, it goes seamlessly between and blends pain and anger very well. The subject matter of this album is super, super heavy. It's basically about power and the abuse of power. The songs themselves are written very beautifully. They have little mini movements within them, these self-contained parts that kind of went against how people thought about metal up till that point, or maybe until the album they recorded right before this. So, for example, in the song Master of Puppets, the title track, there are these two very beautiful guitar harmonies in the middle of them, these little interludes almost. And I heard that a lot of that musicianship and harmonies came from and were influenced by Cliff Burton, their bassist. He was a really revolutionary force in the band and used the bass, his instrument, almost like a guitar. Orion is a really good example of the bass being used and sounding like a guitar at times, especially in the beginning of the song. If you're a Metallica fan, and even if you're not, maybe you probably know that Cliff Burton tragically passed away during the tour for this album. So it came out in 86. They were touring in Europe to support this album in 86. And they were on a tour bus going between shows, and it was the nighttime. It was in Sweden. It was September. There was ice on the road, allegedly, and the tour bus crashed, and Cliff Burton was killed. It was a very significant and tragic moment in the band's career, a really horrible loss for the band, for the fans, for Cliff's family, obviously. When I look at this album art, I kind of associate this album and this art with that event. probably because of the timeline. So it's kind of like a shadow on the whole album. Anyway, let's look at the record itself and like the packaging. So iconic album art. I mean, even if you're not a fan, you've probably seen this somewhere before. Let me tell you about the most exciting part about this. This is an original press, which basically means this is one of the original versions of this album that was created and made when it was released in 1986. So it came out and was put out by this label Elektra. And this is such a cool, like, original label on the record. The record itself is like pretty flimsy. A lot of records that are pressed today are a lot heavier than this. And so I actually really like that about this record. It's like very simple. You have like the thin jacket that's like a sleeve, and then you have this like pretty thin record. It is very rich, warm, and beautiful sounding record that was produced. It was mixed and mastered in a way that just like pulls the whole album and its musicianship and tightness together perfectly. So I'm really, really happy that I found this one in the wild, which I'll get to in a second. One funny thing about this record is that I have two of them. This one was produced or was made more recently. This is a copy that was remastered in 2008, and it came out on 180 gram vinyl, which is heavier. So it's a way more substantial record. You can see the label is different. I like that they kept it simple and like kept their classic logo on it and like didn't do anything too frilly. The outer sleeve is the same, but it has like the different label on it, Warner Brothers here. Let's take out, this one also came with an insert, which is super fun. We have liner notes, some band shots live, and a candid shot. I love this photo of them. And then on the other side, we have lyrics to all the songs and interspersed with some photos. I believe this one at least was taken by Ross Halfin. This is a pretty famous picture of Cliff Burton basically doing this with his fists. And a little fun fact, when I was a teen in the 90s and obsessed with Metallica, I read everything I could find on the internet about them, which back then wasn't a lot. We had like fan sites and that's it. One of the facts that I read about the band is that they liked to get jewelry at this little tiny jewelry shop in London called the Great Frog. My family and I took a trip to London one of these summers of high school, and I begged them to take me to this store. And well, guess what? The rings are very expensive. No teenager has any business wearing those. I was very upset, had to leave, sadly. But when I got way older and looked that store up again, I realized, wow, like I could probably conceivably find the budget to invest in some of these pieces. And I ended up getting the ring that Cliff Burton is wearing in this picture, which is this one. It's one of their classic models, and I'm so happy to have it. Like I've worn the heck out of it. Like you can even see the teeth are like getting kind of mushed together because silver is a pretty soft metal and these are just hand carved. But I love that it's worn. It means it's mine. I've had it for years and years, and it makes me feel like more connected to Cliff. I know it probably sounds very corny, but it's one of my favorite pieces of jewelry. I especially like the side view. That's my favorite. But anyway, tiny little side note about this. So the reason why I have two is because I got this one first in 2008 when it came out. And then a few years ago, I went into a record store in my city, and I know the owner, and he knows that I love metal and Metallica in particular. And when I walked in one day, he said to me, oh, you're going to want to go look at the wall over there. And this original pressing was on the wall, and it was at a pretty affordable price. I mean, it wasn't cheap. It was like more than this one was, but for what it is, I was just, yes, I want that album. Let's get it. So I have this original press that I really treasure. When I put this record on, I will probably put this one on more just because I want to protect this one. But I'm not a collector who like never plays the pristine record. Like some collectors don't even open their albums, but this one I do play, but I play this one more. But today we're going to do this one and do this new routine. So let's go do that now. And yeah, meet me over at the turntable. All right, all. See you next time.